again, everybody, and welcome back to the Common Sense Practical Prepper Podcast. My name is Keith, and this is episode 15. We're going to talk about several things. We're going to talk about Ian, as well as some other stuff going on in the world, and a few things that I'm going to do this weekend as far as my preps. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. And if you are a returning listener, I appreciate you stopping in again. So the title of the podcast is like the Common Sense Practical Prepper. I am a rookie prepper, I guess you could say. And I'm kind of taking everybody along with me on this prepping journey. I am sharing the good and the bad, along with the mistakes that I've made. And every now and again, I get something right. So I will be very, very focused and definitely going to highlight the wins as well as the losses. Okay, today is Saturday, October the 1st, 2022. And do you realize that September was Emergency Preparedness Month? And I know every month is it's like National Popcorn Month, National People Who Live in Antarctica Month, and then there's every day. So, yesterday was like, National Coffee Day, National Pancake Day, National You Throw a Pencil at Your Boss Day. You just can't keep up with this stuff. But I totally whiffed on September being Preparedness Month. Okay, anyway, I don't think we missed anything. I don't think there was any sales, or I don't think there were any coupons or anything that we weren't able to take advantage of. I went to Amazon and Target and Walmart, and going into the brick and mortar, I didn't see any big banner saying, don't forget your whatever in aisle 5 and take off an extra 5% because it's Preparedness Month, Emergency Prepping Month thing. Okay. Hurricane Ian. Oh, my dear goodness. Keep the people, especially in Florida, keep those people in your thoughts. If you're a religious guy or gal, your prayers. Absolute devastation. At one point, 2.5 million people without power. I forget what the loss of life is up to, 12, 15, and it's going to continue to climb. Saw some of the, they had, drone footage and other people, helicopters, news helicopters, Coast Guard helicopters, entire towns just gone. And I get it. That's what hurricanes do. That's what severe storms do. But it's just something about seeing like a 60-foot fishing vessel or vegetable, the 60-foot fishing vegetable that should be here in the water, and it's a half mile inland, sitting on somebody's car. Or a lot of people retire down in Florida. So you'll have, your retirement homes, your trailers, and, they fix them up, your double wide trailers, retirement communities. Everybody drives around with golf carts and stuff like that. Just gone. You just see concrete slabs and you see what's left of streets. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So those folks are going to take a long time to get things back in order. And I read somewhere there were 25,000 linemen, electrical workers, that were on standby. And that happens a lot, especially on the East Coast. That happens a lot. Storms. I'm in Central Virginia. Dominion Power is the largest power company here in the state, and they'll send linemen. I'm sure there's a ton of linemen in Florida or on the way, as well as all over the United States, Northeast, everything like that. Everybody helps everybody else out, and I certainly appreciate it when we lose power here. And my goodness, the folks in Florida. Read a story where one guy, his $1 million DeLorean, $1 million McLaren was ruined by the hurricane, by the water, the storm surge. How does that phone call go to Progressive or State Farm Yeah, my name's Mike, and I need to make a claim. Okay, Mike, what you got? Well, that $1 million car I had a policy on. I've had it for a few years. Yeah, Mike, what about? Well, my McLaren it's in the ocean. It's in the Gulf of Mexico. I live in Florida, and Ian just picked up my car, and it's somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, I don't know. I didn't read any more because I was like, oh my goodness. I don't know if the guy lives somewhere else, like somewhere else in the world, somewhere else in the United States. Dude, you had like a week or 10 days notice. Could you have gotten down there? Could you have hired a neighbor, a kid, some sort of car transport service? Hey, go down and get my car and bring it to me in New Jersey. And I get it, not a lot of trunk space, but if you're going to evacuate and you live there, get the car and go. Oh my goodness, I can't imagine what the insurance on that thing is. And then to have that thing replaced, gracious, can't even imagine that. Oof, that's a phone call I would hate to make. Well, never have to worry about me making a phone call, filing a claim for my $1 million automobile, because that is just not going to happen. So here in Central Virginia, the rain started Friday afternoon, about 3 p.m., really windy the morning of, and the rain really kicked off Friday afternoon, rained all night, very heavy at times, and stopped, it's 1 p.m. local, stopped about 10:30, 11 o'clock. Sun has peaked out a few times. Here at my house, 2 inches of rain, and that is a lot of rain. We had rain a few weeks ago, but, it was dried out. So the rain, it was standing water, in my backyard for a while, but the rain had somewhere to go. So not too worried about that. I've been told, I've got chickens. I raise chickens for their eggs. And Thursday night when I got them from work, I wrapped their coop in tarps to keep the rain off of them and to keep the wind off of them. And when that straw and that hay, that's a part of their run, their covered run next to their coop, when that gets wet and moldy and dirty, it smells like a barnyard. Well, I mean, they're chickens, so I guess it should smell like a barnyard. I have like a mini farm out in my backyard, but you get the point. Every other week or so, I go out there and I got to muck it out, and get it all out, put fresh straw down. The chickens absolutely love that. So I tried to delay that another few days until I can head to Tractor Supply and pick up a couple more bales of straw to throw down there for them. But I came home from work. Got them, 4:35 last night, pouring down rain, raining sideways. Chickens have been cooped up. Do I have to say that? Cooped up in their coop and their run all day. I opened up the door. I had my raincoat on, umbrella, lost the umbrella. I don't know where that is. It's probably still in the air flying somewhere. The wind just ripped it right out of my hands. And the chickens ran out into the open yard that's fenced in with chicken wire. And they were, again, another farm reference. They were happier than pigs in poop. They ran around for hours, and then I'm just full of puns. Then the expression angrier than an old wet hen. I got them back into the covered run just to be like, gals, let's just chill. They were angry. I mean, they were soaked. And I'm like, you guys are going to catch a cold. I get chickens can catch colds, right? I'm like, just hang out. Just sit here and relax. No, wouldn't have it. Very upset. But I got up too early this morning, let them out, and they've been running around ever since. So, 7 chickens. They're golden comets. They lay about an egg a day. They've been laying for about a year and a half. Got them when they were just about a month. Well, April of 21. Got them in March. Had them about a month before they start laying, and very consistent about an egg a day. And so I have more eggs than I will ever eat or give away. But I do freeze dry a lot of the eggs, so that is a good thing. Okay, I know previous podcast I spoke about the James River and I guess the watershed up in the mountains. A couple hours away up in the the Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah National Park, that sort of thing. That's basically where the watershed is. So the water comes down from the mountains and it eventually makes its way down to the James River. And it usually takes 3 days for a heavy rain up in the mountains really to have effect. And I was really surprised. Waynesboro, Stanton, Charlottesville, got a lot of rain, and I just looked at the forecast, and they're not expecting the James River here in Richmond in central Virginia to rise really at all. I was really surprised. I looked at the radar, and I'm like, man, they're getting dumped on, and we're going to have a, 8, 10, 12, 14-foot James River going through the middle of Richmond. But anyway, we got a flood wall and all that. But anyway, they closed the flood wall at 22 feet. Flood stage is 12, and they closed the flood wall that basically surrounds the city at 22 feet. They have not had to close it for any storms or anything like that. Tropical Storm Gaston came through, oh my gosh, 10, 12 years ago, and it basically just parked itself. Oh, my cat sneezed. Bless you. At 10, 12 years ago, and 12 or 14 years ago, it parked itself over Richmond, and they actually had to leave the flood wall open. Richmond is very hilly in certain areas, downtown Richmond. They actually had to leave the flood wall open. Bless you. Oh my goodness. Bless you. They had to leave the flood wall open to keep the city from flooding. It was really ironic. So the rain and the runoff went out through the flood wall into the river. Really weird. So no risk to any flooding here in Richmond because of the James. So that's a good thing. My cats. Do you have allergies? Do you need a Claritin? My goodness. Oh, a couple errors I want to correct from a few podcasts ago. So Nord Stream pipelines carrying methane. They're supposed to carry methane. I was under the assumption it carried oil, fuel oil, crude oil, some sort of oil, but it didn't. It carries methane. Apparently it's still leaking, and there's a lot of conspiracy theory out there about who did what and when, so I'll let those people figure it out. But it's pretty significant, regardless of who's responsible for damaging the Nord Stream pipeline. It's pretty significant. That's obviously the main supplier, Nord Stream 1 and 2 from Russia to Germany. So even if Russia wanted to turn that back on and the EU wanted to start paying for the methane and other stuff that flows through there in rubles, it's probably several weeks away. I don't know how they patch that. I mean, you really can't go down and weld underwater with a flammable gas coming out. that's way above my pay grade, but they have people to do that. And in error, I was talking about, the Prime Minister, I think it said the Prime Minister of France, a conservative Prime Minister of France, a female, was elected probably 3 weeks ago. Actually, it's Italy. So my bad on that. So much for me being up on current events. So let's get into today's topic. I have not done my Costco run yet. I've been out drying out the chickens and letting them run around the yard, eating some grass, and looking at a couple other websites and that sort of thing. So what I want to talk about today is communications, and it's something I really haven't thought about much, but depending on the situation, depending on where you are when the poop hits the fan, there may be a need to communicate with whomever, neighbor down the street, family member across town, your partner or whomever at work, at school. When the power goes out, your cell towers, if they're affected, I don't know if they have battery backups. I don't know if they have generators hanging around, but it's a pretty complicated situation. With most cell towers, it's their range, I guess, is pretty much about 2 miles, give or take, in its line of sight. So as you go down the road talking on a cell phone, going down the highway, every few miles, you're bouncing from cell tower to cell tower, and there's a little bit of overlap, so you don't even realize that you're being switched from one tower to the next. Every once in a while, there's a couple spots on 95 here in Richmond. They're literally dead spots, and it's probably 300 or 400 yards in length, I guess, and probably about 50% of the time, if I'm talking on my cell phone and I hit the dead spot, it's gonna drop, or the signal gets really, really weak. So anyway, I would think that after a certain period of time, the power to these cell towers is going to fail. So there's the cell towers that are being powered. There's the relays, the buildings, and all the signals and cables and everything are going through. So there's a lot of steps. So I think at any point, if one of the relay stations, and it's probably not even the right terminology, one of the relay stations that feeds power and all that good stuff to the tower. If that's out, then the tower is basically useless. So anyway, grid's down temporarily, and there's a need to communicate. What are you going to use? So I don't know, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been on YouTube looking at different types of radios. And the two biggest ones that come to mind, or the most popular, is ham radio, and then something called GMRS that I really wasn't familiar with. I've heard of ham radios. I had a CB as a kid, and CB, that's a whole different thing. So in a nutshell, and I'm going to probably get this wrong, there's different frequencies, different bandwidths that ham operates on, that GMRS operates on, and then CB operates on. So you think of truck drivers and taxi cabs and stuff like that having CBs, and then you think of ham radios, the stereotypical, the guy, in a back room in an office in a shed he's got out in his yard, he's got dials and everything, and he's trying, it's all staticky, and he's trying to talk to people in Australia and stuff like that. That requires, here in the United States, that requires a license, and there's 3 steps, 3 different levels of license. And the licensing agency is the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission here in the United States. They license, radio stations, TV stations, not cable. They would not, not like Sirius satellite radio and stuff like that. They would not govern that because that's over the internet as opposed to over the air. Even though if they're, you're streaming, Sirius radio or whatever on your phone, on your laptop or whatever, that is not governed by the FCC. So anyway, there's 3 levels of licensing, and you have to study, you have to take a test. The tests are not easy. I took a couple like pre-tests for the ham license, and it's not easy. It's not easy. You need to do a lot of studying, and then you get your call sign and all that cool stuff. And depending on your setup, there's so many different variables, and maybe we'll go into that, later on. But I was looking at that, then I stumbled upon GMRS. Now, GMRS, you do need a license, and I have applied for my license with the FCC, and I'm just waiting for yes or no, and I'm not sure. I don't see why I wouldn't get it. And there's no test, and you just pay and you get your license. Boom, hey, I can now broadcast. And I guess technically, if you don't have your license, you can't broadcast on ham or GMRS. I don't know. I don't think like the FCC's driving around in, black Suburbans with the windows tinted out, trying to triangulate, pirate radio people. But who knows? Anyway, I'm sure there's a movie going to be made about that if it already hasn't been made. Anyway, yeah. So, and with GMRS, just, like when you go camping or you go on a trip, and I know I've been on several road trips, and you're kind of caravanning with other people, cars, trucks, campers, whatever. And instead of talking on the phone and doing, group texts and all that silly stuff, you have one of those little blister pack radios, Motorola, Midland, it's, in the little, they're black cases, yellow cases, orange. You can get a Hello Kitty radio. So basically it's like, you think like walkie-talkie. So it's a walkie-talkie that you use. That is basically GMRS. But obviously, there's more expensive GMRS handhelds. There's mobiles, those are what you put in your car, and then there is the base stations as well. So when you talk about base stations, there's antennas sticking out your window and, on your roof, and like little mini radio towers and stuff like that. You can spend $1, you can spend 10,000. It's like any other hobby. But anyway, so GMRS, depending on the situation, line of sight, that sort of thing, you have the ability of communicating with people. So I actually am looking on Amazon at a couple of fairly inexpensive GMRS radios, watching some YouTube videos. Went on Amazon, there's like GMRS radio for dummies. Of course, there's a dummy book for everything. And I'm really interested in that. So it's, it's kind of one of these things I'm going to add on to my preps. It's kind of just a fun, cool thing. Now, will they ever be put to use? Absolutely have no idea. Will there be a situation where, cell phone service is down and I need to communicate with somebody, hey, here's your radio, or, keep your radio in your EDC, your everyday carry bag that you have in your car, with your water, a couple days of supplies. You can make a everyday carry bag. You can put everything in it or just the minimal in it, and that's a whole different podcast. I'll be doing a podcast about that as well. So I think it's kind of cool. It's like anything else. The ones I were looking at were $25, and they go up to like $200. But the technology is all the same. So when you press the $200 push to talk and you say hello, people are going to hear you. When you take the Hello Kitty one that you get at Walmart, to give your kids when they're running around the campground, when the kid keys up, hits the push to talk, says hello, it works. It does the same thing. And just because you're talking on a Hello Kitty walkie-talkie does not mean that the fancy $200 GMRS, which is a very expensive walkie-talkie with a lot of extra features, they're able to talk to each other. So the $5 radio is talking to the $200 radio. I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of one of the things that I would rather have it than not. And because the expense really isn't that significant, it's kind of one of those things, you don't know how much you miss something until it's gone. Or boy, I really wish I had one of those Hello Kitty radios to talk to, I don't know, maybe a neighbor down the street. Maybe, you guys are both prepping, his specialty is, I don't know, freeze dried, whatever. And he has a large water tank, very, all sorts of different things. He goes, hey, I'll do the freeze-dried Skittles if you do the freeze-dried Jolly Ranchers. Speaking of which, I have 8 mason jars full of freeze-dried Skittles on my counter. And I'm looking into actually being able to sell those out of my home. And I don't think I need a crazy business license. I don't think the health department's going to, come swooping in and, doing all the stuff that health department people do. It's called like a cottage business. Yeah, and like candies and stuff like that. You can actually sell it at your home, farmers markets and stuff like that. So interesting. So, the radio may come in handy. You can listen to weather forecasts, NOAA, National Ocean Atmospheric Administration, weather alerts, that sort of thing. So I think it's pretty cool. So be looking at those, and I'll let you know how that turns out. So again, if anybody has any questions, you can always drop me an email at the practicalpreppodcast@gmail.com. Absolutely drop me an email if you have any questions. I'll be making the Costco run late today or tomorrow. Hopefully the chickens will get dried out, and I'll get dried out as well. Go out and pick up a bunch of leaves and a bunch of branches and stuff out of my yard. Of course, I'm going to have to mow tomorrow or the next day because all this rain, my front yard is going to look like an absolute jungle when it's all said and done. So, anywho, again, the folks down in Florida, that state, most of that state's absolutely devastated. So keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And, if you are inclined, to provide a donation or something like that, please be very, very careful. There's a lot of scammers out there. Click this link, donate to Hurricane Ian victims, and it's really going in my pocket, and that sort of thing. I always tell folks, go to the Red Cross, and if you just give the Red Cross a regular donation, they'll use it for whatever they need to, but you can specifically request that your $5, $10, whatever donation actually goes to Hurricane Ian relief. So definitely do that. So then you're like, that your money is going to the folks affected by Hurricane Ian, and it's not going to pay, for, some printer paper, or I don't know, somebody's lunch or something like that. So, I think that's the best way to go as far as making a donation to the Red Cross, and just make sure it's specifically funneled toward Hurricane Ian. All right, folks, that's it for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. And as usual, be safe, take care of one another, and until next time.